Well, here we are. We're back for another edition of Less Kevin, More Tech from UTECit.com. And actually, we should call it Less because Les is gone today. And we have Christine Lippert pinch hitting for him.
That's right.
So before we introduce our guest, I want to set this up, Christine, that this is like, I think it's every guy's dream, but it can be girls' dreams too. Do you ever remember playing with Legos?
I wasn't really. It might be more of a guy's because I wasn't. My sisters and I really weren't into them.
Okay, well, when I heard about this guy from a mutual friend of ours, I was like, we got to get this guy here. We got to talk to him because this guy's taken a toy and made it a career, right?
Basically, yeah.
So
in a very roundabout way.
So we have the other half of the McInerney brothers here to
Buildup Steam.
Buildup Steam.
Yep.
So John McInerney, welcome.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor.
And Tommy wasn't coordinated enough to put together Legos, right? So he didn't have a passion for Legos?
No, he was more of he was the golfer. One of the two golfers. I'm the one who wasn't the golfer, so Lego was my obvious path.
Okay, so Legos. As a kid, you loved playing with Legos.
Yep.
A passion of yours that you wanted to turn it into a career, right? And you wanted to become a
That's
Lego maker, designer, or something?
Yeah, I think every kid who plays with Lego, the dream is to work for Lego someday as a product designer or like a Lego designer. Yeah, your job is to build Lego. And for me as a little kid, it was like the one thing that I could like truly focus on. School, incredibly boring, could never focus on the subjects. But like with Lego, my imagination could, literally come to life in front of me. So I was like, gosh, this is incredible. And for me, with that being the one thing I could focus on, the immense joy that I got from just being able to create, I was like, this is the coolest thing ever. So my hope and my goal was to work for Lego. And then, I kind of was like, okay, what do I have to do for that? All right, product design. What do you have to do for that? Art and design. All right, that's kind of my trajectory. So, took all my art classes in high school and actually, burned through the curriculum in 2 years instead of 4. So I had like 2 extra years to just do whatever projects I wanted. Went to the School of Art and Design at U of M, built up this really cool portfolio of like actual Lego projects, actual sets I designed, summer camps I ran. And
isn't that all they do at U of M is just draw pictures and play with Legos?
Yeah, basically. That was my college career. I went through that whole education process, applied for jobs at Lego, and they're like, no, we don't want you. Which is like, well, I don't know what you're looking for. But so I had this absolutely crazy skill set and really no direction for it. So my family encouraged me like, hey, just, do the best you can with it. So I took my skill set to the local hospital in Ann Arbor and said, hey, I ran these summer camps. I can build these cool things. I'd love to see what I can do for the kids here at Mott Children's Hospital. And they're like, all right, why don't you start volunteering? So I started to volunteer, and I became known as the Lego volunteer, where I brought in a whole bunch of like sanitized Lego so the kids could come and build whatever they want. And I had these little robots that the kids could design, build, and then actually make move, so come to life. And the kids absolutely loved the robots. And so I was a Lego volunteer for a while, and then I slowly became known as the Lego guy, which is like my unofficial job title, which is really fun. But throughout that process...
Now are you square like the Lego guy and your arms only bend like this? And,
it's funny, like, people...
Your hands are like this, right?
It's so funny to hear that because a lot of the kids, like, heard about the Lego guy and were expecting, like, a full minifigure, like, dude, to come into the hospital. And then they saw me and they're like, who's this guy? What? But, yeah, so I was doing these events and... we actually did one where I partnered with the hospital team, the Child Life team. They're the ones in the hospital who, really make the space comfortable for kids. They provide education and resources so patients and families can feel comfortable in the hospital setting and going through the healing process. So I worked with that team to throw this Lego party where essentially brought.
And this is just all volunteer still at this point.
Yeah, all volunteer. And so we threw this party, and they had the Lego movie playing. I brought in all these crazy things I've made, and they're pretty crazy. I actually made a working Lego bass guitar, and it was just like, this seems fun. Why not? And it's actually still there at the hospital.
That's cool.
In their music therapy studio. But so I brought all these crazy things, and they had 100 people attend this event, the most highly attended event in their hospital. And that's when administration was like, we got to figure out how to work with this guy. So that it kind of transformed from like a volunteer position to, all right, they were like, all right, John, you can work for us and kind of do some video game stuff and some Lego stuff where, you know, you can do that, or you can start a company and we can contract with you. So I'm like, all right, I guess I'm starting a company. So I started a company, was working that directly with Mott Children's, and then we kind of made the realization that we need to start a nonprofit if we really want to get this concept working with other hospitals. But at that point, we kind of switched gears.
Hey, let's pause right there for a second.
I have a crazy story.
Yeah, because it is a crazy story, and I think people can tell already if they're listening how crazy you are about Legos. But you're one of the few people I know that have actually gone and visited the roots of Lego, right? You were tell us that you were studying abroad, and
yeah. So I was studying abroad, and I wanted to go to Denmark because that's where Lego was created. So I was like, how cool would it be to actually like visit Lego headquarters? So I did my study abroad there, and I reached out to the people and was like, hey, is there any way I can meet someone from Lego? And they're like, oh yeah, sure, we can try and set something up with this guy. So I'm there in Copenhagen, and they're like, okay, you need to get to Billund, Denmark to meet this guy. It's on the other side of the country. Their country's not big compared to, it's smaller than Michigan. But I had to get across the country and didn't speak a lick of their language, and all of their signs and public transportation, not in English. So I was just kind of like bus to town it was like an Indiana Jones map montage to get over there. But finally did it, and was able to meet one of the guys who was instrumental in developing Bionicle. So for me, that's like a coveted like toy brand that I absolutely loved growing up, and like kind of shaped who I am today is like creating the robots that I use in the hospitals with kids. And I was able to meet this guy. He kind of showed me around Lego and actually took me to like Lego's interior like history museum where they have like a timeline of all their products. So we kind of started at present day and was working back, and he's like, oh, this is Bionicle, the one I worked on. I'm like, no way. I was like blown away. And then we kept going down this hallway into like the 60s and the 50s, and then we got to this wooden room, and they have like a toy duck in a box, and it is like one of the toys that the founders of Lego actually made. So it was like he was a woodworker, and injection mold plastic was just becoming a thing, and they figured out how to incorporate that technology, and it really just launched all across the world from there. So it's incredible that the company itself is just built around the original place.
Yeah, you were telling us that earlier, and I didn't realize that it started out the guy was a woodworker, and that's what it evolved to. And you said they took his actual garage and they built the corporate headquarters or offices around it.
Yeah,
it's still there today.
Somewhere buried inside that company is the man's house. It's incredible.
Well, that's really neat.
So being a little naive with Legos, so it started off with probably just like the different shapes of the blocks, right?
Yep.
But then like growing up and buying them for my nephews for every birthday, Christmas, everything, it's just like every Disney and Marvel theme, like it's from Star Wars to, I mean, it's like everything they make Legos out of them.
Oh
now.
yeah, when I started, we had green, red, blue, yellow, and white, like 5 colors, and it was just odd blocks, rectangles and stuff like that, and what they can do with it now is unbelievable.
It's unbelievable. There's an insane number of parts at this point, and some that have very specific use cases. It's at the point where they're they have, which what I use every day is the actual robotics set. So like they have a platform now where kids can build and program robots that are made out of Lego. So it's like building a Lego set, but then you can program it to come to life. So that's what I use in my day-to-day working with the kids in the hospital.
Yeah.
And it's just unbelievable that like not only technology, but Lego as a plastic toy company has gotten to this point of, being able to revolutionize education as we know it.
An underground economy in the sense that they're collector items on these things, right? These
Yeah.
sets and the value, and it's like baseball cards for a lot of people or stuff now,
Oh my gosh, yeah. It's wild that every individual Lego piece also has its own inherent value just based on like what set it came in. I found a minifigure, one of the little plastic guys, and one part of that little guy was $200. And it was just one of the little Lego figures. So it's the aftermarket stuff is just a whole different ball game.
Okay, so we've taken this passion. You work your way through life, and you're a young dude. You're figuring this out. You go to the hospital. You're volunteering a little bit, and now you're going to say, hey, I'm going to put this to create an employment opportunity for me, but more importantly, a educational, healing aspect to it.
Yeah.
For the kids. So take us. You're there. Now we want to make this nonprofit. Go.
So I'm there, and it was recently after that event. I was still a volunteer at that point, and I sanitize all the Lego, which is not a easy or fun process.
No.
It takes a lot of time, especially like at that point. I didn't really have a good plan figured out. It was just like a bunch of disinfectant and dry it. So I got it all set up in one of the hospital activity rooms, and patients who are feeling well enough can come down, hang out, get out of their room, take a breather, and build whatever they want. And I got it all set up, sitting there, and none of the kids were feeling well enough to come down to the room. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is just tragic. Like, I wish there was some way that I could go to them and brighten up their day. So I figured out, okay, maybe I can, take the robotic stuff, put that in a cart, and, figure out how to take it to them. And that was kind of the starting point for what is now Buildup Steam, where, we have all 36 different robots all ready to go in our carts. The kids have an iPad. They can choose whatever robot they want to build. We have everything ready to go, all sanitized. They can sit in their hospital bed, build this robot, and program it to move and watch it come to life right in front of them.
Huh.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
And they do that from an iPad?
Yep. So we have an iPad. We built an app, so all of our instructions are right there on the iPad. And we figured out what pieces are best for putting together with kids with limited finger strength. With if a kid has an IV or a PICC line in their hand, they often don't want to use that hand. So a lot of these kids start off building with one hand because they're scared to even use that hand. And what's really fun for me as a quick view of the impact the program makes, kids are starting to build this thing with one hand, and then without even realizing it, they're using both their hands to build, and they're no longer scared to use that hand, even though they have medicine coming through their arm. So I had a child life specialist specifically recommending me to go see kids so they can start moving their hand again. And then from there, we started taking a survey of like, all right, what impact is our program really having? And we've actually seen we've increased the energy level of patients. We've made the hospital experience more calm for them, and then we've actually reduced pain. So kids, and this was early on where we didn't really have data to back it up, but I went into work with this little girl, and her mother was in the room, and we build the robot. We program it for me. It's a Tuesday, and I was just wrapping things up, starting to clean things. She's like, "Do you realize what you've just done?" And I was like, "No." Like internally, I was like, "Oh my gosh, did I make a mistake? Did I do something wrong?" She's like, "My little girl has been complaining about her stomach for the past 3 days. she hasn't made a single peep while you were in this room. And that just rocked me to my core. I'm like, well, I can't stop doing this now. Like, it's having an actual impact for the kids who need it most. So I'm like, all right, I got to figure this thing out because this is what I need to be doing in life.
Yeah.
And are the parents giving, I would hope the parents are giving all that feedback to the hospital saying, you know, what a difference you're making, you know, making sure that this program stays.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's been incredible, especially with Mott Children's. I was there working with a family, and the one of the uncles was like, hey, can you tell me who like you directly work for? And they gave me a recommendation. And then I think the biggest one, because I wasn't an employee of the hospital. I was a contractor. So I wasn't able to like have my own hospital phone or anything like that. But I had a pager. No, I didn't have a pager. The cart had a pager, but I got to carry the pager.
Okay.
Is how it worked. And one day I got like 5 or 6 pages, which like normally I'd get 1 or 2 on a busy day because things move pretty slow in the hospital. But I got 5 pages. One little kid refused to leave the hospital until he got a chance to build one of my robots. And they're like, get to this room now because we need to discharge this patient. And I'm like, oh my gosh, on my way.
Yeah.
And it was the sweetest thing because it was a little boy and his grandma. He built a race car, and he's like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. Can we race it in the hallway? And I'm like, yeah, why not? Let's go. So he runs it down the hall. He takes the turn, runs it down. He did a victory lap around the hall with the race car before he left. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is the sweetest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah. So I got to imagine just the emotional part of that. You know what I mean? Just seeing the smiles and the escape you take away from these kids. But it's also, it's just unbelievable on so many different levels, right? Just the stimulation of the mental aspect of that, the distraction from what they're fighting, the using their hands, as you said.
Yeah.
I think the parents too, right? Because they see their poor children just battling and in pain, and to see, you know, however long that is, the joy on their face and building something and seeing that come to life, it's got to be just such an incredible feeling for the families to see their children going through that. Yeah,
it's incredible. I think like having a parent say, this is the first time I've seen my child smile this week, it's like that hits heavy. But then there's also times when parents are equally as interested, and like mom or dad will start building the robot with the kids, and you create a pretty incredible family moment. It's like, yes. But also there's a lot of times where I need to step in and help, but when mom or dad is helping the kids put together the robots, I'm like, okay, I guess I'm just hanging out now.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's some incredibly powerful and transformative moments that have come into play because of this, and it's just, and for me, it's been an absolute honor and like far exceeded my expectations of just, let's see what I can do with my skill set, and it's really turned into, you know, what's the best thing that I can create.
Yeah, man, I tell you, I love it because I sit here and, you start getting teary-eyed or thinking about what these kids are going through and the battles that they're fighting and what we're asking young kids to deal with, and to have something like this that is so fun. And like, we go back to our childhood and think about this stuff. It's just a great outlet for them.
Yeah. It's been absolutely incredible to see how one thing leads to another, especially when the kids start building. And if you've built a Lego before, like you start really getting focused on putting this piece there and this piece there, and what am I building now, and that level of focus that goes into putting each piece together really just kind of, like, anyone who builds Lego kind of takes you out of your environment and really narrows you in on what you're making. And to put that into a medical context, it really has proved beneficial in so many different ways.
Sure.
So now you're in, I think you said 5 hospitals?
That's correct.
So how did that come about? So you've been mostly at Mott, right?
Yep.
Mott Children's. And then did other hospitals hear about the difference you're making in the program and contact you, or did you go out looking, hey, I want to expand this thing? Like, why don't you fill us in on that?
A little bit of both. So I I feel like I kind of grew up at Mott Children's Hospital in that way, where like that's really where I was able to start my career. So we started my first LLC there, and then that became Buildup Steam, the nonprofit. And for me, I took a route of I'm going to work for Lego. So I studied art and design and product design, not business, not nonprofits. So I had a lot to learn throughout that process of just like, what is this stuff? What am I doing? This is crazy. So it took about a year to get it from like a business concept to a nonprofit and figure out how that is all structured. And, I finally got my nonprofit, and then COVID hits. So that was a crazy time because I was out for 6 months. So the moment they could get me back into the hospital to work with the kids, they're like, yeah, get back in here. So most people were out for, a year or two, and I was back in there ASAP. And it was strange. We were doing what we could virtually. All of us were kind of scrambling, but doing the best we could. So at that point, basically doing what we could with the hospitals, and then out of nowhere, I got connected to the president of the Children's Foundation, and I was like, hey, this is what I'm up to. We really figured out how to make this concept work at Mott. Regardless of the pandemic or not, our sanitation process kills everything because we went full overkill to the point where we actually break the Lego, which is really fun. It's kind of wild how hard we hit those things with the disinfectant. But we were like, hey, we got this concept figured out. We think we can expand it to your hospital. So they're like, all right, let's get it going at the Children's Hospital, Michigan. So not only did I have to then, figure out how to get this concept going in a new space, develop a new sanitation protocol, I also had to hire somebody to run that program and get them going in the hospital. So that was my first kind of taste of management in that point. And then from there, every year since, we've typically gotten one more hospital where I've been lucky enough to kind of share what I've been working on with Buildup Steam to other people in the hospital space. So there's a whole field now called patient technology, patient gaming and technology, where their job is to utilize recreational technology in the hospital setting to improve the lives of patients and families. And that's the group that I was working at Mott. So as that whole field kind of developed in more hospitals, that's kind of who I've been directly partnering with, because it's kind of a natural, like, all right, you're using technology, so am I. You want to do some stuff with robotics? Here you go.
Yeah. Now, are there you aware of are there other programs like this around the country, or do we think we're the most unique one here with this? Or?
Not bedside robotics. There's other avenues in the hospital setting for like recreational technology, where there's organizations that do like video game carts. There's organizations that do bedside magic. So as I was kind of growing up in this space, I was actually watching what they were doing. Like, okay, this is how they figured that out. I can kind of incorporate that idea too. All right, they're mobile in this way. Let's figure that out. And the people who run those organizations too are amazing people.
Sure.
And they really do it out of the kindness of their hearts and the joy of what they're able to provide. So they've been incredible resources to me to say, all right, you want to work with hospitals, this is some of the stuff you got to do. And, really helped me grow in that way.
None of the doctors or nurses ever complain like they stepped on the Legos, like when we were, as a parent, like they were laying around on the ground, like, or do you find them off in the corner playing with them?
No one's really barefoot, so that's good. No, the doctors actually love it, and the nurses, because there's been a lot of times when patients have been very, rejecting anybody coming to the room, because, in the hospital setting, if you're sitting there, they have new people coming in left and right for all sorts of reasons, and unfortunately, some of those reasons are absolutely terrible. So for somebody to come up to their door and say, hey, you want a mental break from that? So, like, my kind of spiel is like, hey, any interest in building a Lego robot? And I've had, like, patients, like, be sitting there watching TV, and they'll, like, double take at the door and be like, what did you just say?
Uh-huh.
Like, do you want to build a robot? I'm like, yeah, let's go. And it's little moments like that, you know, made it easier for even the hospital staff to build rapport with patients because they're not as scared as people coming in and out of the room.
So the hospitals that you're in, everything in Michigan?
No, so we started at Mott Children's Hospital, and we got going at the Children's Hospital Michigan in 2021. And then our next partner hospital was the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. So that was a whole nother ball game of, all right, how do we get this concept going out of state? And now we're also at Comer Children's Hospital in Chicago and Children's Colorado.
Very neat.
Yeah.
Well, I tell you, it's fascinating to see, and it's special that you have a dream, you have a passion, you think you're going this way with it, and it takes you this way. And I think if you could sit back and choose, you'd rather go this way because you see the just the gratification and the joy you bring to so many people, and the impact you're making on lives is phenomenal, isn't it?
Oh my gosh, it's it's beyond my wildest dreams. Like I never imagined, like, and I think about this a lot. Like when I was back in college, I'm like, I never ever thought I would ever start a company, start a nonprofit, work in a hospital. Like all of those things just seemed completely just impossible. And the fact that turned out to be my life is just absolutely crazy. But it does track, like looking over the course of it, like me having a pseudo official title of Lego guy. That tracks.
Yeah. Is that on the license plate? Lego
It should
guy?
be. It should be. I gotta find that one.
I love it. Well, Buildup Steam.
Yep.
And if people want to support this, they want to find out more about that, we'll have all the credentials, you know, the places to find you on the podcast, right, Johnny? Yes, sir. All right. And we'll have that out there. And we encourage anybody to go look at this. And you're taking donations, right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Do you guys have any sort of, so you're taking donations, do you have any sort of events or fundraising that you guys, you know, like yearly fundraiser or anything that you do that you want to promote?
So that is the part of the nonprofit I'm still trying to figure out. At this point, we're actually doing, you know, a different sort of fundraising initiative, and we're going to announce it soon, but we're actually designing our own Lego sets that people can buy, and they buy these sets, and the proceeds go to funding programs at hospitals.
Oh, wow.
So we've been able to, I actually made a scale replica of the DAC in Detroit, and their members were able to buy it, and the proceeds from that are going to be able to start our program at a new hospital.
Love it.
That's awesome.
So I'm making all these different, we're calling it the Detroit Collection, but I have Ford Field, I have Comerica Park, Michigan Central Station, any buildings that...
You need to do the Detroit Golf Club.
I should, yeah. Yeah. I'll probably, you know what, that sounds like a good thing to do this afternoon. I might as well try and whip that up. Yeah, so we're working on that one. We're cooking that up. But our hope is to be able to sell these sets and, you know, the proceeds going to programs. So you get this cool Lego set. That's what really, you know, not a large-scale thing. It's literally us producing these sets. And, yeah, we're going to be able to change some lives with it.
Yeah, you're doing it. That's phenomenal. So normally we like to have a bourbon here, and we ask what our favorite flavor of bourbon is. And we talk about bourbon as we close out the show. But I think we should, we'll ask you that. What kind of bourbon do you like?
I'm a huge fan of Angel's Envy.
Angel's Envy, okay.
Yeah, that's my go-to.
Cannot go wrong with that.
Yeah.
We picked a Basil Hayden here for you to try, and I think it's a 15-year Basil Hayden.
Fancy.
So we'll have to check the bottle, and when Johnny's done drinking out of it. So but then we'll have to ask, let's come back. Let's not close with this. Let's just enjoy bourbon here real quick. Toast to your success.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so
all
much.
you're doing for the kids here.
Thank you.
Smooth and good.
That's delicious.
What's your favorite Lego toy? I mean, of all time, what's your favorite Lego?
So,
Or memory, maybe?
yeah.
Might be a better.
So for me, Lego toy is Bionicle. So when I mentioned I met that guy who was instrumental in inventing Bionicle.
Uh-huh.
It was basically meeting one of my heroes. So they're basically like robot action figures that you can build and change and like have little gears that move. And I thought it was the coolest thing, you know, retrospectively, incredibly nerdy, but I'm still like, yeah, I'm all for it. It's the coolest thing. So I was obsessed with those. And, you know, it's funny how that kind of transformed into, you know, what I'm doing today, where I'm still using Lego robots. It's just the technology has come a long way.
Yeah. Christine, do you have any Lego memories?
I don't, but I think it's so cool on like the buildings. Like I've seen, like Michigan Stadium, big house. I'm sure OSU has one too. But just the way that they're taking this and, you know, for adults, keeping them, you know, still really engaged with them and interested in them by, you know, by having those kind of buildings and things like that.
Well, what's cool about that Michigan Stadium one is, and I don't know if you know this, Johnny, but do you know how many batteries it takes to light up that Michigan Stadium?
No idea.
1 AA.
The future is now.
No, I mean, Legos is just so cool because I remember.
Well, you just said you bought one at Costco, a kid at the Costco.
Yeah,
you
I
know,
just
this
bought one 2 weeks
week,
ago.
yeah.
I bought the race car. It had a Formula One. But, you know, my memories, yeah, as a kid, you always remember building them. But we didn't have the elaborate sets, so just you had to build something out of 16 different shapes of rectangles to do something. But it was the villages, you know, the towns. And we had a stretch of 5 or 6, 7 years where my son and I, Grant would always get one for Christmas. And then that was our week to build that because we had to get it done by New Year's so we could be on with life. But it was really fun just to sit there and build with him, and we'd dump all the pieces out. You had to organize them in piles, so you'd have all this stuff. But yeah, a lot of fun, and it's just amazing what you're doing. So congratulations, Buildup Steam. It's phenomenal, man.
Thank you so much.
I love this stuff, and we got to think of more ways to do more with this program because it's so cool.
Thank you so much.
You rock, buddy.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks.
All right.